Hello and welcome to the third daily episode of Nutrient Management Week on the Dairy Edge with myself, John Maher. Shortly we'll hear from Waterford farmer Mike Ahern, who will outline his plan for P, K and liming. But first, I suppose I will set the scene on this whole area. It's fair to say we have work to do, but having and understanding the basic plan is a start for the year 2026. I suppose quickly a lime, in terms of a recap. We all know it releases nitrogen, P's and K from the soil. That's worth a lot of money. People underestimate that. You know, it's the cheapest and best form of fertilizer in terms of return on investment, soil friendly, pasture friendly, and as a very, very high rate of return. I'll give you two quotes to sell lime and then won't spend too much more time on it. But both from David Wall now, so who many of you will know from our soil fertility exploits. But the more rain falls, the more acidic our soils become. I think people accept that. That's why there's more lime required on the western seaboard and the eastern seaboard. But this one now is a different story. If you were renting or taking land for just 1 year and the land needs an application of 2 ton of lime per acre, it would be wise to apply lime 2 ton to the acre early in the year and thereby leave 1 ton per acre for the next person. Now, that's some statement. So most of you know that lime works in a kind of an 18-month, 2-year cycle. But to apply lime on land that you're renting for 1 year at 2 tons per acre and leave 1 ton for the next person, I think that sells it all in terms of what lime can do. Now, to get it applied, there's a flexibility required. Too often, that's not approached properly at all. You know, obviously, reseeds are an easy target. Clean swards after silage or bale should be considered more for a lime application. Spring and autumn bring long rotations, which also provides opportunity. But for too many people, they try to get a huge proportion of the farm covered in lime and all in one go. It's a very big ask. It's a lot of hope required in that ask. You're hoping the weather is good. You're hoping that you can travel the land. You're hoping the contractor will come. You hope the lime will arrive. So it's much better just to target a few paddocks or fields at a time, and that's a much better plan. And you know, not to bite off 2 more than you can chew. Right, to move on to P here now. It takes almost 20 units of P applied per acre per year to grow about 13 or 14 tons of dry matter per hectare for grazing. This P can come from both the organic forms like slurry and fertilizer forms. What's key here though is that about half of that requirement, at a minimum 8 to 10 units of P per acre, is applied before the 1st of May. So it has to be front loaded. So April is the ideal month for applying. Now on some farms I accept that there may not be a huge allowance of fertilizer P. If there's a restricted amount of P on the farm, I would nearly apply all of that in the month of April and front load. That's important. Can't stress that enough. I suppose there has to be some P kept for reseeds too, and we all accept that. But even applying some watery slurry early in the year on grazing ground would go a long way to covering some of the P and K requirements for grazing for the year. Now, especially on, you know, where index 2s and 3s, applying any form of slurry on index 4s is not a very efficient use of that slurry, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. In terms of K then, about 35 units of K applied in the year is required to grow 13 or 14 tons of dry matter per hectare for the year. In terms of loading then, it's ideally from the mid-season on. So fertilizer application of K farms should take place from about June on. Some K can go out in April or earlier in the form of slurry, but most of the fertilizer K for grazing should probably happen in the latter half of the year. Now, there's no problem splitting, you know, the 35 units, doing 15 units or something like 18, 6, 12 in April and then come back with the rest of it during the summer. That's not a problem. But I suppose applying, you know, nitrogen with a K-type product during the summer is probably a good strategy in terms of nutrient management. Our friend sulfur then, just to finish off, sulfur application should begin in late March, early April. About 20 units per acre of sulfur is required by early July to grow that 13 or 14 tons of dry matter per hectare for grazing. About 10 or 12 units is required, or per acre is required per cut for silage. Slurry is actually a very low in sulfur content and therefore is a poor source. So you're going to need, in terms of silage ground, you're going to need a product with sulfur in it to get the 10 or 12 units out per cut. Normally, sulfur is applied with nitrogen fertilizer, but, you know, should start on time, which really is early April. Heavier land only needs about 10 to 12 units of sulfur per acre for the year, but again, for even heavy land, starting in April, May would make sense. So start early. When you come into April, the salt should be sulfur in the fertilizer you're applying, whether it's protected urea plus S or a compound plus S. There has to be S in it. And the reason for that is S drives the whole nitrogen use efficiency, and that's why it's needed. Now, it's time to hear, I suppose, from Mike Ahern, who will outline his approach to applying P and K and lime during the year. So we'll have a chat with Mike now. We mentioned about applying slurry in the spring, Mike. You have probably a bit more choice than others in terms of your choice of slurry that goes onto the grazing paddocks. We just explain for a minute what slurry goes on the grazing paddocks in the spring.
Yeah, I suppose the outdoor tank is the one we'd be dropping first, if you know what I mean. So it'd be more watery, to be more dilute. So it wouldn't be a big P and K, but it would be nitrogen bang for the grassland.
Yes, I suppose the P and Ks are diluted, which from when you're applying, as you outlined on the previous podcast, you're applying slurry to low cover ground. Yeah. Someone has index 4. Yeah. We don't want high P and K slurry certainly going onto that ground. If we could avoid it, it would even help. But people have to be aware that the making use of the P and K and slurry is a very, very, very valuable resource, and in certain circumstances, some of this has to be exported. So applying slurry onto index 4 ground that's high in P and K, and then having to export, people need to really have a strong plan thought out that we don't just apply slurry for the sake of applying slurry on grazing ground that's close to the yard, that's probably index 4, and other parts of the farm that need it more importantly. So just for you then, how you manage the slurry P and K for the year?
Yeah, well, I suppose it all starts with the soil tests. So once the results come in, we're basically dividing the farm. So there could be a section like just the indexes would be very good. The 4s or high 3s, they would just be on a maintenance. So look, they might get a lick of slurry just to drop the tank, maybe a small bit in the spring.
And if it was slurry, it would be watery as well.
Yeah, but it might get nothing again for the rest of the year. Then we could have paddocks that would be low on P, so we'd be targeting our P allowance to them paddocks, and they'll get them in March.
The type of product you normally apply to get them?
The last couple of years now, it's been Top Phos. It's a Grassland Agro fertilizer. We find that goes out. Our P is covered. That's it, done for the year. Forget about it.
Okay. Yeah. Where does most of the slurry go then, Mike? That has the high P and K.
Yeah, look, we have outside ground, so that's where it's going. That's where the offtakes are.
In terms of silage?
Yeah, silage, and we also have maize ground as well, so there'll be a good coat of slurry going there as well.
So the best P and K slurry goes to the out farms and where the silage is done?
Yeah.
Where there's little or no recycling going on, unlike grazing?
Yeah.
Right. So then in terms of strategy then of K for the year, Mike, and how you work it out, obviously you have some slurry in the spring, that's fine. Yeah. But your P is front loaded early. The K is a different plan for you now?
Yeah. The K, once we, as again, when we have the soil results back, we know which fields are low in K on the platform. So they automatically get a bucket tech screwed onto the stake, a red bucket tech screwed onto the stake.
The lid of the bucket?
Yeah. We know then every time the cows go in there, and if it's suitable and if there's slurry in the tank, we'll just go out and put slurry on it as well, because it'll be little drip feed of P and K all the time. So we'll be doing that throughout the year, and also we'd switch for them paddocks. They'll probably get like the likes of a 29-014.
So it's a nitrogen with 0 P, K,
and a K product.
And a sulfur.
Yeah, little and often is what I find. From June on, we'll start with the K. Yeah, and then little and often drip fed then for the rest of the year.
All the way into September.
Yeah. And them paddocks then, if they're index 2, they will get a bag of MOP as well in September, October, November, whenever.
Okay. On the MOP, are you a split type person? Some people will go with, half a bag in August and half a bag in early September.
Generally, no, it'll just
go one application,
bag.
August, September.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just for people listening then, if you are index 2 and the lime is right, and we apply a bag of MOP, which is about 50 units per acre, that's generally, on average, on the average soil type in the country, going to rise you an index from index 2 to 3, provided that the maintenance is covered and you haven't cut silage off the paddock. Now, just for the maintenance figures, just so we're all clear here, you're talking somewhere about 30 to 35 units to do about 10 grazings or grow about 14 tonne. That's the maintenance figure. If that was covered, we apply 50 units in this bag of muriate potash and we should rise an index. That's how the logic is for you. Your main strategy, though, is to drip fed across the summer. And then if we require an index jump, you come in with the MOP at the end of the season to top it up. Okay.
Let's bring it up.
Just when we mentioned sulphur, it's another piece of the jigsaw. You're good on lime. You mentioned your P allowance is small and that's front loaded. Decay goes to the second half of the year from the fertilizer farms. Sulphur, when do you start?
I start, I like protected urea goes on for the first and second round, and generally then we'll go to the 38s plus S from then on.
So early April? And keep applying then into the summer?
Often again.
Into the summer. All right. You've dry ground now, it's fair to say. And like sulphur is needed more than normal in drier ground in the years we've had. The reason for that is to improve the whole nitrogen efficiency, especially from the fertilizer, which costs money, but it actually has an impact on the other sources of N as well. So that we're clear about that. So you start early April and
continue away.
And the application to the summer. Okay. Mike, you don't need much lime, luckily enough. But just when we are here.
When the soil tests come back, there might be something after dropping, and that paddock then will be just earmarked when we're reseeding. It'll get maybe a ton, whatever it'll need. It might need a ton, but we'll just be ordering extra that day. Contract will be there anyway, so it'll be just kept on top.
It's a bit hypothetical, but if you had lime to apply in, Mike, your strategy on the farm for applying, no, your pH is good, so that's a great thing to start with, which is important to get all the responses out of the fertilizers. People don't realize that the pH is low. We get P locked up, especially K locked up to a degree. We lose nitrogen, unfortunately, if the pH is very, very low to the environment, which we don't want to be doing. So having pH is right. But in terms of, you'll do the lime at reseeding. If you were short of lime elsewhere, are you a spring type person? Are you application? Are you an autumn type person? Are you, do you apply after cutting for bales, or whenever it needs it, it gets it? Will you just explain how you do it?
Yeah, it's kind of, once it's earmarked, it's whenever suitable. Like, when you're getting lime for reseeding, it's very easy ordering another load because the contractor's going to be there anyway. You just plan it. You might jump ahead in the rotation to get that paddock grazed, and sure, God willing, and usually it does rain after it. So that's washed in and
it is
job
fair
done.
to say now, Mike, you're very good at grazing. You graze the right covers. The paddocks are well cleaned so that the lime goes on and it's not contaminating it. That's okay.
No, there's no leaf contamination, I suppose. Yeah, definitely.
But you are an opportunist.
Yeah, you have to, like, once you've it earmarked, like, once you know the paddock, you just, like, even if you put in another bucket or top of a bucket and a different colour, at least just your brain, just every time you open that gap.
Yeah. So the point you're making about the earmark of the paddocks with the lids of the buckets on the stake, whoever's driving the fertilizer spreader knows then, okay, if this is white and red, this must get nitrogen and get K. Yes.
Yeah, and if it's white, it's like it's high clover, so it'll probably get less nitrogen. Yeah. Every time you drive into the paddock, you're like, oh yeah, this one. Yeah.
It's a check and balance, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just a simple system.
So then, okay, actually this one needs K, so I'll go to another paddock and come back and get.
I get this within the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When we mentioned fertilizer application, how often do you apply in the main season? Like, are you applying 2-3 times a week?
I'm I suppose twice a week. I suppose just following the cows. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That's how you work it.
Yeah, little enough, and that's kind of the strategy.
Mike, thanks for joining us on this.
No bother, thanks, John.
Don't forget to join us again for tomorrow's Dairy Age, as I will continue my conversation with Mike Ahern on his plan for early nitrogen fertilizer application. Something that's very, very important in the year ahead. We have big demand for grass in the spring. Now, to whet your appetite on this, I suppose the first application of fertilizer will be somewhere about 20 units, thereabouts, of a protected urea type product applied per acre, or 25 kilos of N per hectare. And this costs about 30 euros per hectare or 12 euros per acre. But even a modest response, and I could give higher responses, would generate over 300 kilos of grass dramatic per hectare. If I go up to more typical responses in a reasonable year, that would be nearly 500 kilograms of grass per hectare. Now, the 300 kilos of grass is worth over 60 euros. So let's be clear here. There's a good return for your money, given any sort of reasonable conditions with urea fertilizer application in the protected farm. And now the figures I gave there do not include any carryover effect on future grass production, which is often ignored. So anyway, Mike will go through his plan tomorrow and we'll see you then.